When a young mother is found dead in an ordinary suburban home, all eyes turn to the strange behavior of her husband. Police launch an interstate investigation in a bid to find answers, only to discover that the truth is much closer than they think. In fact, every moment of this young couple's lives can be found hidden in their own house, concealed in an elaborate surveillance system that's only now about to give up its secrets.
What we saw was some of the most shocking footage that I've ever seen in my entire law enforcement career.
This is the story of a young woman who thought she had found love, but instead found evil. Before we begin, we would like to send our deepest sympathies to the loved ones of Brandy Solenza, whose life was taken far too soon. It's Saturday, April the 7th, 2018. The Johansson family are spending the morning relaxing in their Palm Coast, Florida home. While 36-year-old Keith sleeps in, 25-year-old Brandy chats to her 6-year-old son Ryland as he eats the cereal she's prepared.
Okay. I never had that type of cereal.
Ryland, friends say, is the center of Brandy's universe. She tells him that later that day they're going to the Flagler County Fair with Brandy's sister. Ryland is over the moon. He tells his mother that he loves her and then skips off to watch TV. A happy family life is what Brandy always dreamed of. She was just 21 when she met her husband Keith in the spring of 2014. He was 32, a considerable age gap. But Brandy wasn't your typical 21-year-old. Already a single mom to Ryland, Brandy was looking for a stable relationship with a man who could help her create a loving home for their son. And in Keith, she felt she had found that person. In 2017, the couple got married, and by January of 2018, they had moved into the ranch-style bungalow at 23 Felter Lane, just a short walk from the beautiful beaches of Palm Coast.
You know, even though it's cold, it's so beautiful to be here.
They were just this big, happy family that went out and did family activities, and everything was just amazing. Brandy's son, who was not Keith's son, according to Keith, referred to Keith as Daddy.
At 10:30 a.m. on the morning of April the 7th, visitors from a local church stopped by with some reading material. Brandy takes the pamphlets and chats with them at the door. She's friendly and welcoming, as she is with everyone who knows her. After several minutes, she waves them goodbye and heads back inside. Just minutes later comes a call through the Flagler County Sheriff's Department. It's Brandy's husband, Keith.
Okay, what's going on there?
I was in the shower. I heard gunshots, and I think my wife shot herself.
What happened?
I was in the shower, and I heard some gunshots.
Okay.
I think that my wife accidentally shot herself.
Do you see her?
Yes.
All right, where did she shoot herself?
Looks like in my bedroom.
Where did she shoot herself bodily?
I don't know, I can't see it.
What do you actually see?
She's laying down right next to the bed.
Where is she bleeding from anywhere?
I don't see it. I don't see blood.
Okay. Do you see a gun on the floor or anything?
Yes, I ain't moving it.
What kind of gun?
It is a 9mm.
Okay, do you see any head wound? Did she shoot herself or anything in the head? I need somebody to page it out for me. Do you see anything in the head?
No.
All right, do you see any, have you tried waking her up? Do you see any part of her body where she got shot that you can possibly apply pressure?
I can't see anything.
The operator tells Keith to begin performing CPR. Keith is flustered and tells the operator that he can't. Clearly finding this strange, the operator persists, asking him why he can't render her assistance. Keith says that his feet are wet and he's afraid he'll slip on the floor and hurt her. He then says that he can't access his wife because she is surrounded by stuff.
We just got married, man.
I got you. When did you guys get married?
Last year, but we were gonna renew our wedding in 2 months. Please tell me that you guys can save her.
Officers find the body of 25-year-old Brandy lying on the floor of the master bedroom, already deceased. A 9mm handgun lies beside her. A quick examination of the body reveals that she had suffered 2 gunshot wounds to the chest. Sitting in his bedroom is Brandy's 6-year-old son, still watching TV. He's unaware that he just lost his mother. Ryland is escorted by police officers out of the house and to one of their vehicles, where a police officer will wait with him until the family members can arrive.
How long were you in the shower, would you say?
Maybe 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
I thought it was a
How
balloon.
many shots did you hear?
2.
You heard 2?
And I thought it was a balloon at first. And I ran out there and seen her laying there going, so I called you guys immediately.
Detectives now move through the house room by room. They find numerous weapons: a 12-gauge Winchester shotgun, a Springfield Armory 6.56 rifle, a 9mm Ruger with magazine, and a .45 caliber Springfield Armory handgun. There is no sign of a violent altercation that might have taken place. The house appears orderly and generally like the typical family home. There are a couple of things that stand out, though. Keith had told the 911 operator that he was in the shower at the time of the shooting, but the floors in both bathrooms are dry, as is Keith's hair.
Scratches on him?
Yeah.
He's not wet.
No.
So he was in the shower.
Yeah.
And there's something else. Someone has wired an elaborate video surveillance system throughout the house and the exterior of the property. Every room inside the home and every square inch of the property outside are being monitored 24 hours a day.
I saw this camera right above your head. I see a couple right in front of you above you. And there's a few, I don't know if they're active inside the house as well, so.
To officers, the setup seems excessive even for the most security-conscious of citizens. But in terms of their investigation, it's invaluable. But officers are about to be disappointed. Every room in the house has at least one camera, other than the master bedroom. And when detectives ask Keith for access to the footage, he says he doesn't know where it's stored or how to access it. In the hours that follow, Keith is taken to the station and interviewed. Police ask him to walk through everything he knows step by step.
I knew that something was wrong, that she had accidentally got shot, but I didn't know where.
Who do you think accidentally shot her?
Not me. Herself. I figured she was trying to, how it looked to me, is she was maybe move them, or trying to move them, or I don't know. I wish you guys would tell me.
As for why she may have shot herself, Keith tells police that he can't rule out the possibility that it was an attempt to end her own life. Overall, though, he feels pretty certain that it was an accident caused by Brandy mishandling the weapon. Detectives ask Keith about the state of his marriage.
How would you describe your relationship?
The best one that I've had yet. I mean, she was everything that I wanted her to be. Everybody has their problems here and there, of course. But it was, she woke me up, she made breakfast, she had my back, and that's very rare. She had this online thing, you know what I mean, that she admitted to, I've been flirting online, but we'll be. Who cares? You didn't do nothing physical.
But he doesn't show any emotion when he talks of her or the accident that ended her life. To detectives, the story Keith tells makes no sense at all. It's likely near impossible that anyone would shoot themselves twice, either by accident or in an attempt to take their life. That night, police interview Brandy's 6-year-old son, Ryland. While Ryland did not witness the death of his mother, he tells detectives something chilling. He says that regularly he would hear his mother screaming in her bedroom, and it was the same kind of screaming he had heard that morning. Meanwhile, police have learned that surveillance footage from the house is stored at a California-based company called Arlo. A warrant is issued to acquire those recordings. On April 9th, 2 days after the shooting, medical examiners perform an autopsy on Brandy. Curiously, a rubber bullet had caused the gunshot wound to the center of her chest. Rubber bullets can cause injury and severe pain, but they are generally used to disable or deter a person and are rarely lethal. The second bullet was to her right breast. That is the one that killed Brandy. The wound had been inflicted from a 9mm bullet, so powerful it had exited her body and struck the nightstand, then penetrated the drywall beside it. Police turned to Keith for answers on why he had rubber bullets in his gun, and his explanation gives police another small glimpse into Keith's strange behavior. He tells them that he has a habit of loading his weapon with 2 non-lethal rounds of rubber bullets followed by a lethal round. He's been doing that for at least the last 2 years, he says, so that he can use his weapon on an intruder without killing them. Most importantly, the report reveals the approximate distance from which both guns were fired. One shot had been made from a gun held at close range. The other had been shot from a distance of 3 feet or more. Therefore, Brandy could not have shot herself. The medical examiner rules the cause of death officially as homicide. Keith Johansson has just gone from grieving husband to prime suspect. Before they issue a warrant for his arrest, however, police want to see the surveillance footage from the house. It has taken 3 weeks to arrive after repeated attempts by the company to evade the search warrant. But on April the 27th, they finally accessed the surveillance from 23 Felter Lane. First to view the footage are Detective Nicole Quintetti and Detective Sergeant George Christokopoulos. The footage they have requested is from April the 5th until April the 7th. What they see leaves them speechless.
You up, man. Like bad. It's only a matter of time.
The footage documents a woman being subjected to severe domestic abuse.
So much that you're threatened to kill yourself, and you're gonna spend the rest of your days in an institution. I can throw you there tomorrow. You did? No problem.
On April the 5th, the couple spend the evening in the master bedroom where, for about 5 hours, Keith compulsively smokes meth from a glass pipe. He launches several verbal attacks on his wife.
Yeah, you push a person to either beat or kill you because you're...
He leans into her face and berates her, demeans her, and calls her vile names, and threatens her life while she cowers on the bed, quietly weeping or staring at the wall. At one point, she curls into a ball. Keith is convinced that Brandy is cheating on him, even if only in her mind. He describes in graphic detail the sadistic violence he would like to carry out on her and how much he would like to kill her.
Just to use it. Gave you too many chances, man. Too many. Show a cop these videos. I'd rather be in prison than to call in my homies and you both die.
Why?
Sure. I gave up everything on a chance with somebody who lied. Cheats, does this and that. You know what? I'm gonna leave it here to haunt you. Maybe one day you will.
After more than 5 hours of this, he can be seen reaching up and snatching the camera off the wall. It's the evening of April the 5th. 2 days later, Brandy would be killed in that very spot. Footage from the day that she is killed shows Brandy chatting with Ryland, him saying that he loves her and her saying it back.
I love you. No, I do.
At 10:33, Keith is seen picking up his jeans from the living room floor and speaking to Brandy in an argumentative tone. A minute later, Brandy reappears, crouches down, and then goes back to the master bedroom. These were the final moments of Brandy's life. It seems too coincidental that they are hidden from the watching eye of a camera. She is killed in the space of just 3 minutes. By 10:37, Keith is on the phone to 911. Could an argument have escalated in such a short period of time? It seems unlikely, and police are about to uncover more evidence of just how cold Keith truly is. From the moment he calls 911, Keith suddenly reappears in the living room. He can be heard telling the 911 operator that he's checking for injuries on Brandy. Instead, he is scrambling around, hiding drugs and drug paraphernalia.
Heard gunshots? Did I give my wife shot or something?
Are you applying pressure to that wound?
No, I can't
Find yourself
her like that. I'm wet. I'm sliding on my floor.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. Just taking a shower. Okay.
His wife is dying alone in the bedroom, and he is preparing the house for police to ensure he's not facing drug charges. Detectives now feel they have enough evidence to prove in a court of law who was responsible for Brandy's death. 3 weeks after the investigation began, Keith Johansson is arrested and charged with second-degree murder. In the days following Keith's arrest, detectives, along with Assistant State Attorney Jason Lewis and Assistant State Attorney Jennifer Dunton, watched the videos again. The scales of the verbal abuse, physical intimidation, and blatant threats to end her lives moves them to make a bold decision. They decide to prosecute Keith for first-degree murder.
It gave a very clear picture that Keith Johansson had it in his mind days before that he was going to kill Brandy Salenza. He said it several times on video that he needed to leave the home so that he wouldn't kill her. She needed to kill herself so that he wouldn't kill her.
I'm gonna kill you and go back to jail.
The state prosecutors believe that when the jury sees Keith remove the camera from the bedroom, how quickly he executes the murder, and his behavior during the 911 call, they will believe that the murder of his wife Brandy was premeditated. But Keith is about to come up with all new stories as to what really happened that morning. While Keith awaits in the county jail, he makes a new confession to police. This time he says he believes it was a neighbor who shot Brandy, the same neighbor who caused him to begin keeping a weapon in his nightstand. This confession is shot down in flames when he's reminded that they have footage from the surveillance cameras that proves no one else entered the house. Several months later, he changes his story again. He tells police and his mother during a phone call from the jail that he believes it was Ryland, Brandy's 6-year-old son, who shot Brandy. The audio from the call is not clear, but the detective in the video explains it.
Investigator Quinteri, I know that was a quick call. What was of evidentiary value in that call between the defendant and his mother about what he said?
They were talking about his stepson, and Mr. Johansson says, well, what if he did it? And obviously the mother's response was, he's 6.
Right, okay.
Keith maintains that he never hurt Brandy, that he is innocent. Not one, not even his parents, believe him. Perhaps because, on top of the evidence, they know Keith's past. Extensive details about his past have not been disclosed, but we know enough to get a good picture. Over the years, Keith had been diagnosed with several different mental illnesses. Mental illness alone rarely leads to violence, but in Keith's case, paranoia and anger issues had collided to a disastrous effect. As a teenager, he spent time in juvenile detention. A long-term relationship with methamphetamine had given him the finishing touches to his personality. He was paranoid, jealous, controlling, and someone with a violent temper. By the time Brandy crossed paths with him, Keith had already been charged with domestic violence by a woman who had a daughter with him. She had kept the baby secret in order to protect herself and the child. In the early days of his relationship with Brandy, Keith had asked her to connect with the woman over Facebook and then ask her who the father of the child was. Brandy did as asked, but the woman became suspicious and blocked her. Later, Keith was charged with violating a protective order when he and Brandy were seen waiting in a car at the woman's work and videoing her with their phones. At some point, Keith had found work as a roof contractor, but a supposed back injury led to a settlement that meant he could essentially stop working altogether. His drug use escalated. He became hypervigilant and developed a persecutory delusion that led him to carrying a weapon at all times, and later convinced Brandy to do the same. He forced Brandy to give up her job. Once at Felter Lane, a neighbor had visited the house. Thinking that he had an agenda, Keith began keeping a gun on his nightstand. He began regularly visiting a local shooting range for target practice, and he rigged up a multi-camera setup to enable him to see who was on the property at all times, and when he wasn't home, what his wife was doing. But watching her wasn't enough. He couldn't see what was going on in her mind, and became convinced that she was having fantasies about other men. And despite her never being out of eyeshot, he believed that she was physically cheating on him. In his mind, she likely deserved to die. He certainly never shows any remorse. In the lead-up to the trial, Keith makes one last-ditch effort to save himself. He's mentally ill, he claims. He can't remember what occurred on the day of the murder and therefore is unfit to stand trial. By now, Keith has established himself as a compulsive liar, and he is declared competent to stand trial. On October the 26, 2021, Keith's murder trial began with opening statements by Assistant State Attorney Jennifer Dunton.
I've got to get away from you, or I am going to kill you. You have to tell me when you're masturbating when I'm gone, or I will kill you. Those were the words of this defendant 2 days before his wife, Brandy Salenza, was found shot and killed in their home, in their master bedroom. Those threats to kill were captured on their home surveillance system, on a camera in their bedroom on April 5th.
Defense attorney Gary Wood then spoke on behalf of Keith.
Ms. Salenza was killed in self-defense, and you're going to hear instruction about what self-defense is and justifiable homicide. It's a very tragic case, and I'll explain what happened and what evidence you will hear, both through cross-examination of the state's witnesses and from testimony that we'll also provide on our side.
After 3.5 years of endless lies to police and his parents, Keith Johansson now presents the jury with a whole new story. This time, in a voice devoid of any emotion, he explains that he did indeed shoot his wife, but it was in self-defense. In this new version of events, he and Brandy had been smoking meth for 10 days straight. At some point, he had felt sick and stopped, but she continued, finishing the last gram on her own. By this time, she had been awake for several days straight. He describes to the jury how he heard his name called, only to find himself staring into the barrel of a gun and his wife saying that he was not her husband. She was looking at him but not seeing him, and told him he was made of plastic. Terrified, he grabbed a gun for himself, walked toward her and tried to disarm her, but she wouldn't drop the gun, so he pulled the trigger.
Well, I woke up and I went to the living room to retrieve my pants because I was thinking about taking a shower. Then I pretty much was in the bathroom, took off my pants, getting ready to step into the shower, and I heard her say boo, which is the nickname that she uses for me. So I go out there, and she had a weapon in her hand. She said that I was not her husband and I was plastic, and I had walked forward to her, trying to disarm her, and, well, I had grabbed my gun, the one that was in the box. Okay.
Mechanic?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Then I started walking towards her, trying to, say, hey, man, and trying to bark orders and for her to drop it and to disarm her. And then she would not do so. So I got closer and I tried to grab it from her, and she lifted it up and a round went out of my gun on her. Then she cocked and swung as I'm retreating. And another round I pulled off because she was pointing a loaded weapon at me.
So how many times did you fire the canic?
Twice, sir.
twice. Okay, and where were you at, and where was she at when the first shot went off?
We were almost face to face.
Okay, and
because I was trying to reach down and get it.
So, using the bed as a reference, where were you at in reference to where were the two of you at in reference to the bed?
Well, how it is, sir, is there's a space, there's a gap between our bed and the wall. And there's a dresser right over here. So we were, man, I wish I had a diagram and I would show you, but so here's the nightstand. She was right here and I was right here.
He also explains that he was wet enough to slip on the floor but did not have wet hair when detectives arrived. He'd literally just stepped into the shower when he heard the gun go off, so he had stepped out before getting his whole body wet. As for the endless lies to both law enforcement and his parents, Keith says he lied to detectives because he was not represented by a lawyer. He also did not want to tarnish his wife's name by telling everyone about her meth use. In other words, he'd allowed himself to violently end her life, but drew the line at sullying her reputation. The state demolished his claim of self-defense. They pointed out the domestic abuse, the endless lies he had already told, that Brandy had been at a neighbor's house the day before and showed no signs of being delusional. The medical examiner testified that the amount of methamphetamine found in Brandy's blood in her toxicology report were nowhere near the levels that would cause someone to lose control of their faculties or become delusional or aggressive. The trial only lasted 4 days. On October the 28th, 2021, the jury took just under 3 hours to come to a verdict for Keith Johansson. Guilty of first-degree premeditated murder.
We, the jury, find the defendant Keith John Johansson as follows to count 1 of the indictment. Guilty as charged as the crime of first-degree murder.
Keith Johansson was a man who used control, intimidation, and violence to soothe his growing paranoia and increasingly loose grip on reality. He kept Brandy where he could watch her and set up his home to facilitate that monitoring of her 24 hours a day. But even that wasn't enough. So he removed the camera from the crime scene, waited for the right opportunity, and then extinguished her life altogether, leaving her beloved son Ryland and her family to suffer the consequences.
Little things were big things to her. A butterfly, just amazing person all the way around. Had no fear.
Circuit Judge Christopher France sentenced Johansson to life without parole. After the sentencing, Sheriff Staley said, "A young woman and mother lost her life, and a young son has lost his mother because of a moment of rage. Her husband thought that violence was the answer. I hope that he will spend the rest of his life in prison." Ryland is now being raised by his biological father.
Brandy wasn't just my sister. She was my best friend. She was a mother. She was a daughter. She was young. She still had a whole life to go. And he just took her away and nobody was able to say anything. And being in jail is great for freaking him. He gets to live. As we still have to suffer inside with my sister gone and knowing and have to deal with Ryland growing up knowing his mom is not here with us. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like the video, comment down below your take on it, and please subscribe to the channel. On your way out, don't forget to hit the notification bell in order to stay up to date each time we reveal a new shocking case. Until next time, stay safe and keep your eyes peeled. You never know what's lurking in the shadows.